What's going on, YouTube peeps and barbecue freaks? Thank you guys for joining me today. Many of you have said, hey James, you've done a competition trimmed brisket, you've done a competition trimmed pork butt, but where's the chicken? Well, that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to show you how I trim my chicken for competitions. I'm not going to get into the cook part, just the trimming. I'm not going to get into any of the rubs or anything like that, injections or anything. This is going to be strictly about how I trim my chicken for competitions and why I trim it that way. And I'll just let you know now, this is probably going to be different from some of the other videos you see, because in a lot of other videos, a lot of other areas in the country, they'll do like chicken legs, chicken thighs. Well, down here in Texas, we have to do whole half chickens, so it's a lot different. You'll see what I'm talking about, and I'll get into that a little more as we're trimming up. So that's what we're gonna do today. I got a yard bird. We're gonna trim it up. I'm gonna show you how I do it, why I do it. I hope you find this video useful. Let's get started. All right, so this chicken here that I have, when I'm looking for chicken, I'm looking for one that weighs 5 pounds or less. And this one here came in at 4.69 pounds. So this is gonna be perfect. And the reason you want something 5 pounds or less is anything bigger, you're gonna have a tough time fitting it in the turning box. So you wanna make sure you get something that's 5 pounds or less. So the first thing we're gonna do is I remove the insides of this chicken, like the neck and the liver and all that stuff, gizzards, whatever they are. And I'm just trimming this skin down here at the bottom where the tail's at. Just giving it a nice, or a quick little trim, removing any large pieces of excess skin. Then we're going to turn it over, so that way we have the backbone exposed here. Now, a lot of people will take some shears and just cut that backbone right out, but I don't. What I'll do, at least not yet, what I do is I'll find it here, and I want to cut right along the back of that. Now I take my knife and just get right under the skin, right along the backbone. And what I'm doing is I'm just trying to release the skin off of the backbone just a little bit, just to expose that backbone. We are going to remove it, but there's a reason I don't just cut it out with that skin on it. I'm not going too deep, just a little bit. I want to save as much skin on each side as I can. So that's why I do it this way. Just that little bitty bit of skin. You're probably thinking, man, that's not a lot of skin. True, but you may need just a tad of skin to hold on to later on. You'll see what I'm talking about more. So now that I got that exposed, now I'm going to go in right under the skin and remove that. Take that out. Just trimming away some of the excess skin. So here we have the whole bird opened up. Let me get this turned around some so you can see it. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm just going to come in here and like this, the skin that's hanging on, there's fat. Just cut that right off. I'm just cleaning it up at this point. here and get all that out. So anything that I don't want on there, this fat, we're gonna trim off. And then if I need to come back in here afterwards to clean it up just a little bit more, I'll do that. So this is what it looks like now. What we want to do is we want to go ahead and spatchcock it. Right, so actually we're not going to spatchcock it just yet, but let me show you something. We want to find the middle of this breastbone here, right, where if we were spatchcocking it, that's actually where what you're trying to crack here. So make sure you have a good knife. What I'm going to do is just come right down the middle and split this in half. However, I'm not going all the way through. I'm not even going to get the skin on the back side just yet. I'm just trying to open it up. There. I'm still in the meat. I haven't gotten to the skin yet. And you don't want to cut all the way through, not to the skin. I'll show you why in just a second. But what I'm doing is, you can see I'm removing this meat, or cutting through this meat until I can get down to the skin. And I want to be careful here. And I'll show you a little bit up close in just a second. Lau, hope you got your popcorn popping. All right. There you go. So I'm gonna try to zoom in here real quick so you can get a better view of this. If you, yeah. So if you notice, I've gotten both halves separated, but the skin on the bottom is still attached. You want to make sure you don't cut all the way through there. Now what happens 9 out of 10 times, if not 10 out of 10, if you notice this side of the breast meat, it has that opening in there. You can see that. See that opening there? But this side doesn't have it. There's always one side that has it and one side that doesn't. So what I'm looking for is the side that doesn't have it. This is going to be the piece that I turn in. So since this side does have it, I have another chicken that I'll prep, and when I cut it, I'll end up with the same thing. I'll end up with 2 pieces that have, that slit in there, and then 2 pieces that don't. And the 2 pieces that don't have it, those are the ones I'm going to focus for my turn-ins. Now I'm going to cook these and prep these exactly the same way as these, just in case I need a backup. If something goes wrong, I have the backup. But the reason I don't want this to be my first option is when you go in there to inject, look, if you're injecting in this, I mean that injection is going to come all right out. It's going to come right out. So even with that slit, I'll go ahead and inject it, like I said, just in case. But most of the times, this is a piece that we're not using. So since this is a piece we're using, what I'm going to do is And this is the reason we cut just some meat and don't cut all the way through the skin. So what's going to happen now is I want as much of this skin to be able to fold over the back of this, the bottom of this bird, when I go to prep it and cook it. So when I come in here to cut it, I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to slide it a little bit this way, and so that way I get a little more skin for this piece of chicken, if that makes sense. So I'll line it up right in the middle and then just move over just a little bit. Just like that. So now this side has extra skin, and we're going to need that extra skin here in a bit. So let me get this one out of the way and wipe this one down, and I'll pick back up in just a bit. All right, so I have half the chicken here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to clean up some of this fat here, trim it off. I'm trying to get right under the skin, so I'm not cutting the skin. As I trim this fat off, that skin is just kind of pulling away. I'm going to take off as much fat as I can. And this is where I end up spending most of my time on this chicken. It's, you know, there's a lot of fat in here. Like I said, I probably do more work than anybody on a piece of chicken, but I just think it makes a difference. So this will be equivalent to like some of these other competitions where people use chicken thighs and they take the skin off and scrape the fat off. Well, you can't quite take the skin off of a whole chicken. So what I have to do is kind of pull it back here, and I'm just exposing this fat and just trying to trim it away as much as I can. But it's equivalent to like taking that skin off of a chicken thigh and scraping it. But you got to be careful because you do not want to cut through that skin. In this area right here, the chicken, it's not going to be that big of a difference. But once we get to the breast part, you know, it's definitely going to make a much bigger difference. So I'm just kind of going through here, all this fat that's on the skin here. I'm trimming that off. I hope you can see that because I can't see what you're seeing, but again, you just have to be really careful not to cut through the skin. But if you do, it's not the end of the world. I mean, you can, you know, kind of hide that through the cook. But that's also the other reason you have those other halves to kind of make up for it in case you do. So some of this skin here, you know how it kind of flaps over, that's a little more than I really need. So I'm probably going to go in here and cut some of this off, but I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to wait till the end and make sure I have enough skin for what I'm doing. So here I'm going to take this chicken breast, and actually what I'm going to do is turn this way so you can pick it up. I'm going to pull this skin back, so I'm going to take my shears and just kind of trim that web looking stuff away and pull that skin all the way back, as far as back as I can. Just be careful not to cut through the skin. So we're just going to expose this breast meat here. And we're going to do that for a couple of reasons. One, this is where we're going to inject it. And two, we're able to add some rub to this meat and let it soak into that meat. But you also have all this fat down here at the bottom. And so we want to make sure we get that off. I'm just going to kind of curve this or carve this breast meat down some, just to make sure that I have enough skin to pull back over. It's not going to hurt it. There's plenty of meat there for the judges to choose from. So take some of that meat, get it out of the way. And then this is where I spend most of my time. This is where you really got to be careful. So what I'm going to do now is the skin, we're going to bring it back over this breast meat. But before we do that, we want to trim that fat underneath it. So we're going to pull it back, turn it this way. And I'm just trying to expose this fat right under the skin here, all of this fat. And you need to be really careful. I'm just trying to go parallel with the skin and trimming some of that fat off. You gotta be careful not to go too fast because you'll cut into that skin, and you do not want to cut into that skin. But it happens sometimes, and you just deal with it. But if you can avoid it, that's what you want to make sure we do. So we'll just pull this skin up. I'm using my fingers to kind of push up on it. Some of this fat is pretty thick. So I'm just going to go through here, take my time, and trim that fat away. Now down here, they don't really judge on bite through skin. However, my thinking is, if a judge gets a piece of chicken that has rubbery skin, and then they get a piece of chicken that has that bite through skin, I think that they look at that and say, wow, that, you know, that pitmaster took extra time to make sure that this chicken was done right. So while they don't necessarily judge on or score on bite through skin, I think it does leave an impression on the judges. So I take the time to do this. And I do very well on chicken. I get quite a few calls on chicken, almost on the regular. So, you know, I'm doing something right. But it does take a lot of work. It is a lot of time. But I think it's worth it. I'm just coming down, and I'll show you this fat here as I'm trimming it off in just a second. What I'm removing. So this fat here is a fat that's underneath the skin. That's going to make that skin rubbery. So I'm just going through and removing that. Pull it back over, make sure I'm good. Come back and just take my time, trim it up, using my fingers to kind of push up in certain spots where I'm seeing that fat. But you want to keep, you know, try to keep it as parallel, the shear to the skin. You want to try to keep that as parallel as you can. If you start to go too much on an angle, you're going to really cut into that skin. And what we're doing here is we're just kind of trimming. It's like you're trimming a bush. And I'm just trimming that fat away. Now some of it will render down as the chicken cooks. So, you know, if you happen to leave a little bit on there, you're fine. Trust me. But this is where, like I said earlier, I spend most of my time. This is just probably more than I need to do, but again, I think it makes a difference. Come back up here. There's some fat up here I want to get. And I just do this to the whole chicken, to this whole piece skin here that covers up the breast meat. I'll do it to that, and then I'm gonna come back to that later. I'll finish that up to try to make the video as short as possible, which I don't know if that's gonna happen. But also, if you turn this leg quarter over, you can there's some extra skin here we want to remove. There's some fat here you want to remove. Anywhere you see fat, take it off. You do not want to run the risk of that judge biting into that fat. See all this fat here on this leg and this thigh, this leg quarter here? I want to get that off. Again, a lot of the guys I know will just split this chicken in half, season it up, and throw it on the grill, and they can get it done in 5 minutes. But not me. I just kind of get anal about this. Pull this, even the skin on the leg part here. I hope you can see that. Like, there's some fat here also that I want to remove. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I'll go through this whole bird and I'll do all 4 pieces like this, 4 to 6. Sometimes I cook just 2 chickens, 2 whole chickens. Sometimes I'll do 3, just depending on the cook-off. Then you want to, like, there's a lot of fat right here that I'm going to get into here in a bit, but right now I'm just going to kind of shape it up. So I'm not going to, spend, obviously I'm not going to spend the hour trimming this whole up, or trimming this chicken all up, but you get the idea, of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So when it's all said and done, again, this isn't 100% completely finished, but I just want to, save time and show you what it looks like. This is how we're going to cook it. We have to cook it whole, just like this. We can't separate it. You have to cook the whole bird intact, just like this. And in my opinion, this is a lot tougher to do than a lot of these other competitions that just do thighs or legs. A lot of cooks will stick with dark meat because it's hard to screw up. But when you've got to cook dark meat and white meat at the same time, same temperature, in the same environment, it's really tough to get them done perfectly because they cook differently, right? A lot of times cooks will dry out this breast meat trying to get the dark meat finished out. So it definitely takes some talent or some practice, but it's just what we have to do here. And then, there are things that I do to get this removed real quick. There are things that I'll do to hold that skin down, because if you don't pin it down with toothpicks or something, that skin's just gonna pull right back. And I do other things with the wings to pin it down, because what's gonna happen also is as this chicken cooks, this wing is gonna start rising up. And it's just, appearance wise, there's just some things that you can do to make it look good. And but those are some secrets that I do that I'm not going to really get into. But that's what it looks like. Again, this isn't 100% completely done. If I was prepping this for a competition, I'm going to go in here and do a lot more trimming. But you kind of get the idea of why I do it and how I do it. And again, expose that, season it up, cover it up, and we're good to go. So I hope you guys found that useful, or whatever. But that's my competition trim chicken. So hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys next time. I'm also going to do a rib trim, a competition rib trim coming up soon. So be on the lookout for that. But this is what the chicken will look like once we're done and we're ready to cook. So hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys next time. Thank you guys for watching. Take care.